Ethan Cole never thought his life would change just because of a new roommate. He lived in a quiet apartment on the edge of the space colony called New Horizon. For him, every day was the same: work at the dockyards, eat cheap food, and sleep in his small metal room. The world outside was noisy with engines, ships, and travelers from different planets. But inside his life was slow and lonely. When a landlord told him someone new would be sharing his space, Ethan did not care much. He only hoped the person was quiet, clean, and not another drunk spacer who would bring trouble. He had no idea that this simple decision would drag him into something far bigger than he ever imagined. The day Lyra arrived, Ethan opened the door and froze. She was not like anyone he had ever seen before. Tall, graceful, with long black hair that shimmered under the colony lights. Her skin looked too smooth, almost glowing. Her eyes were sharp, bright gray, and for a moment, Ethan thought they were shining with some hidden light. She smiled politely, holding only one small silver bag, as if she owned almost nothing. "Hello, I'm Lyra," she said softly, her voice calm but carrying a strange accent. Ethan stepped aside, letting her walk in. There was something different about her, but he could not explain what. She moved lightly, almost too perfectly, like every step was planned. Ethan told himself not to stare, yet his eyes kept going back to her. The first few days passed without problems. Lyra was quiet, respectful, and always disappeared into the shower longer than normal. Every time she came out, a faint smell of something sweet and metallic filled the air. It was not perfume, not soap, but something Ethan could not recognize. He told himself it was nothing, but his curiosity kept growing. At night, Ethan sometimes heard her voice from the other room. She spoke in whispers, not in English, not in any Earth language. The words sounded soft, flowing, almost like water moving through stone. Ethan pressed his ear to the thin metal wall, but he could never understand. One night, he swore he heard another voice answering her, even though she lived alone. It sent a chill through him, but by morning she acted normal, making tea like nothing happened. Lyra avoided food in the apartment. When Ethan cooked noodles or heated frozen meals, she always declined. Sometimes she would touch the plate, close her eyes, and then shake her head. Instead, she drank a lot of water, almost too much. Gallons disappeared from the filter every week, and Ethan started noticing the bills climbing. He tried asking once, "You okay with food?" She only smiled faintly and said, "Water is enough for me." Her answer made no sense, but her calm eyes stopped him from asking more. Still, Ethan could not ignore her beauty. She was not just attractive. She was breathtaking, like someone designed to be perfect. Other men in the colony stared whenever she walked past. But Lyra never seemed to notice. She walked straight, quiet, as if she lived in her own world. Ethan felt both lucky and nervous sharing a roof with her. It was like living next to a secret that did not want to be discovered. One evening, as Ethan returned from the docks, tired and covered in dust, he opened the apartment door. The lights inside were dim, and steam flowed across the hallway floor. He thought the water system had broken, but then he heard the sound of the shower running. The entire apartment smelled strange, like heated metal mixed with fresh rain. The air felt alive, buzzing softly against his skin. He called her name, but there was no answer, only the sound of water splashing. For the first time, Ethan felt a shiver of fear. Something about her was not normal, and the apartment itself felt different. He told himself not to overthink. Maybe she just liked hot showers. But deep down, he knew this was not just about bathing. Something else was happening behind that locked bathroom door. That night, as he lay awake in his bed, Ethan could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her glowing eyes, her calm smile, and the steam that seemed more alive than air. He wondered who Lyra really was. A traveler, a runaway, maybe even something not human. The thought should have scared him, but instead it pulled him deeper into curiosity. He felt trapped in his own home, sharing space with a mystery he could not resist. And so, Ethan's ordinary life ended quietly. The moment Lyra walked through his door, his world shifted. He just did not know yet that this was only the beginning. The roommate he thought was human would soon reveal a truth that would change his life forever. Ethan woke up earlier than usual, his mind heavy with unanswered questions. The steam from the bathroom last night still haunted him, the memory of the strange glow lingering in his thoughts. He told himself it was none of his business. She was just a roommate, but his curiosity kept pushing him. Living with Lyra was like living with a puzzle that refused to show all its pieces. Every morning, she followed the same ritual. She would step out of her room with her hair still damp, drops of water shining on her skin like tiny crystals. Her eyes looked brighter after every shower, almost too bright for human eyes. She would drink a tall glass of water, stand by the window for a few minutes, and then disappear again. Ethan watched quietly, trying not to look obvious, but he felt the weight of her presence every time she moved. At the dockyards, Ethan found himself distracted. While others worked with engines, loading crates, and checking cargo, his mind drifted back to his apartment. Back to her. It annoyed him because he was not a man who chased mysteries. He was practical, simple, he fixed ships and paid rent, but Lyra had broken through his normal routine like a crack in metal. He could not help but imagine what secrets she kept. That evening, he returned home early, determined to find answers. Lyra was sitting at the small table, reading something on a holographic screen. The symbols were not English, not even any colony script he had ever seen. They curved like waves, glowing faint blue, alive with light. When she noticed him, she quickly shut the device, her face calm, but her hands too fast. Ethan pretended not to notice, but the moment stayed sharp in his mind. Later that night, the whispers returned. Ethan pressed his ear against the thin wall, his heart racing. The words sounded liquid, like water moving through stone, and this time he heard a faint echo. Someone or something was answering her. He stepped back, his breath cold, his chest heavy with unease. How could she be speaking to someone when there was no call, no device connected, no signal registered in the building? The next day, Ethan tried to test her. He cooked a simple meal, something cheap but warm, noodles with spices from the colony market. He offered her a plate, smiling politely. Lyra looked at it, touched the noodles with her fingers, and closed her eyes. For a moment, her skin shimmered faintly, as if tiny waves of light moved under it. She set the plate down and whispered, "I cannot." Her voice was gentle but final. Ethan forced a laugh, trying to hide his nervousness. "Not a fan of noodles?" She smiled, but the smile never reached her eyes. "Water is enough for me." Days turned into weeks, and her strange habits grew harder to ignore. The water bills doubled, sometimes tripled. She spent hours in the shower, hours just sitting by the window drinking glass after glass. Ethan noticed her skin sometimes glowing faintly when the lights were dim. It was not normal, not human, yet she acted as if everything was perfectly fine. It made him feel like he was losing his grip on reality. One evening, the colony's power flickered. The lights in the apartment dimmed, and Ethan saw something he would never forget. Lyra's eyes glowed in the dark, sharp silver light shining from within. Her skin rippled, shifting faintly like water disturbed by wind. For 1 second, he saw the outline of something not human beneath her human mask. Then the lights returned, and she looked normal again. But Ethan knew what he had seen. He confronted her gently. "Lyra, different, aren't you?" For a long moment she said nothing, only looked at him with those calm, glowing eyes. Finally she spoke. "Different is not always dangerous." Her words were careful, measured like someone walking on thin glass. Ethan felt torn. Part of him wanted to press harder, demand the truth. But another part told him to stop, because once she spoke, his life would never be the same. That night, he could not sleep again. The whispers continued, filling the apartment like a quiet storm. This time he stood outside her door, listening, his hands shaking. He thought he heard his own name inside the alien words. He stepped back quickly, his chest tight, his mind spinning. Why would she be speaking about him in a language not of Earth? The shower became the symbol of everything wrong. Steam filled the hallway night after night, glowing faint blue like trapped lightning. Ethan's skin prickled whenever he walked past, his heart telling him not to open the door. He imagined her true form inside, alien skin shimmering underwater. Every drop carrying energy not of this world. He wanted answers, but fear kept him silent. Still, despite the fear, Ethan felt drawn to her. She was beautiful beyond reason, mysterious beyond explanation. The kind of person who could destroy a man or change his destiny. He told himself to be careful, but the more he watched her, the more he wanted to know the truth. And deep inside, he knew the moment of truth was coming. Her secret could not stay hidden forever. The night began like any other. Ethan returned from the dockyards tired, his arms heavy from lifting crates and repairing engines. The apartment was quiet at first, but as he set down his tools, he noticed a thin fog creeping across the floor. It was not normal steam from cooking or heat. It carried a faint glow, like moonlight trapped inside mist. His stomach tightened as he followed the trail, every step pulling him closer to the bathroom door. The sound of rushing water filled the hallway, but it was different tonight. The water seemed to hum, vibrating through the walls, as if alive. Ethan pressed his hand against the metal door and felt warmth pulsing through it, almost like a heartbeat. His instincts told him to walk away, to leave her privacy untouched, but his curiosity was stronger. He knocked once, his voice low. "Lyra, are you okay in there?" No answer came, only the sound of water and the strange hum growing louder. His hand tightened on the handle. He should not open it, he knew that, but fear and curiosity battled in his chest. Before he could decide, the door cracked open by itself, steam pouring out into the hall, wrapping around him like living smoke. Inside, the scene froze him in place. Lyra stood beneath the shower, her body glowing faintly, silver light flowing along her skin like streams of water. Her hair floated weightlessly as if the steam itself was holding it, her eyes closed, her lips whispering in that same alien language. The water around her was not clear, it glowed faint blue, sparkling like liquid starlight. For a second, Ethan thought she was dissolving into it, as if she and the water were one. She opened her eyes and saw him, and Ethan's breath caught. Her eyes were not human anymore. They blazed with light, shifting silver and blue like lightning inside storm clouds. For a long heartbeat, neither of them spoke, steam swirling between them. Then Lyra whispered, "You should not be here," her voice carrying a strange echo, as if two people spoke at once. Ethan stumbled back, his hand gripping the doorway. What are you?" Her expression shifted, sadness and fear mixing in her glowing face. "I'm not your enemy," she said quietly, "but you are not ready to see me like this." The glow around her began to fade, her skin shifting, her eyes dimming back into something human. The steam thinned, the strange hum faded, leaving only the sound of running water. Ethan stepped away, his heart racing, his mind burning with questions. He wanted to run, but instead he stood frozen, watching as the alien shimmer disappeared completely. When Lyra finally stepped out, wrapped in a towel, she looked almost normal again, almost. Her eyes still carried that faint silver spark, a reminder that he had not imagined it. They faced each other in silence, the air heavy with tension. Ethan finally spoke, his voice rough. "You're not from Earth, are you?" Lyra hesitated, then shook her head slowly. "No." The word was small, but it felt like an explosion in his mind. Every strange habit, every whisper, every drop of glowing water now made sense. He wanted to demand more, to know everything, but she raised her hand gently, stopping him. "Please," she whispered, "the less you know, the safer you are." Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed fear, not for herself, but for him. Ethan's chest tightened, fear mixing with something else he did not want to name. That night, he lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. The memory of her glowing form replayed in his mind, over and over. He could not decide if she was beautiful or terrifying, maybe both. But one truth burned clear inside him. Lyra was not just a roommate. She was something far more dangerous, far more important. And now he was caught in her secret, whether he wanted it or not. In the silence of the apartment, Ethan realized something deeper. He was not afraid of her the way he should be. Instead, he felt drawn to her even more, as if the danger only pulled him closer. And that terrified him more than her alien truth. Because the story of Lyra was no longer hers alone. Now, it was his too, and nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The morning after the shower incident, the apartment felt heavier. Ethan moved through the rooms carefully, as if each step might break the silence between them. Lyra sat at the small table, her hands wrapped around a glass of water, staring at nothing. The silver spark in her eyes was dim, but Ethan could not forget what he had seen. He poured himself coffee, the sound of liquid hitting the cup louder than usual. Neither of them spoke for a long time, the silence stretching like a wall. Finally, Ethan said, his voice low, "You're not from Earth." Lyra closed her eyes, her lips pressed tightly, as if the words hurt. "You should not have seen me," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. Ethan leaned forward, his hands gripping the table. "I had to, Lyra. I live here too. I deserve to know what you are." Her eyes lifted, glowing faintly again, sharp and beautiful, but filled with sorrow. "If I tell you, you will be in danger," she said, "knowing my truth ties you to me, and those who hunt me will not forgive it." Ethan froze, his chest tightening. "Hunt you? Who's hunting you?" She looked away, her fingers trembling around the glass. "My people," she whispered, "and others, those who fear what I am, those who want to use me." Her voice carried both pride and pain, like someone carrying too many secrets. Ethan stood, pacing the room, his mind racing. "You can't just say something like that and expect me to stay quiet. Lyra, if you're in trouble, then I'm already in it too." She rose slowly, her movements graceful yet heavy with sadness. "You do not understand. Humans are fragile compared to what hunts me. If they find out you are helping me, they will destroy you without hesitation." Her words cut deep, but Ethan's anger burned hotter. "Then let them try," he said, his voice shaking but firm. "You're my roommate, my responsibility. I'm not going to throw you to the wolves just because you're different." For the first time since she arrived, Lyra looked shocked. Her lips parted slightly, her eyes wide, the glow flickering as if her emotions disturbed it. "You would risk your life for me?" she asked, her voice soft and uncertain. Ethan's jaw tightened. "I already am, aren't I? Every day you stay here, I'm living with a secret that could kill me." The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Lyra stepped closer, her presence filling the room like a storm, her scent strange and sweet, her glow subtle under the dim light. "You are brave, Ethan," she whispered, "but bravery can be foolish. You do not know the enemies I carry. You do not know the weight of being near me." Ethan held her gaze, refusing to step back. "Then tell me. Give me the truth. No more half answers." Her hands trembled, and for the first time, she seemed more human than alien. Her calm mask cracked, revealing fear, loneliness, and a heavy burden of secrets too big for one person. Finally, she said, "I'm not only hiding, I am surviving. The showers, the water, they're not about comfort, they're about life. Without them, my body weakens, my disguise fades, and they will find me. The hunters could track me if I falter, if I stop." Ethan's chest tightened, the image of her glowing in the steam flashing in his mind. Her words made sense now. The endless water, the strange glow, the whispers in the night. She was holding herself together, fighting to stay hidden in a world not meant for her. Ethan reached out, his hand brushing hers, warm against the cold glass she held. "I don't care who you are, Lyra. I just know I won't let anyone take you," he said, his voice steady. Her eyes shimmered, and for a brief moment, she looked at him not as a human, not as a threat, but as something else, something important. The silence between them changed, no longer cold, but alive with unspoken trust. But deep down, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. Her confession was not the end of the mystery. It was the opening of a door to something much bigger. If hunters were truly after her, then danger would soon arrive at his doorstep. And the choice he made today, to protect her, would shape both their fates. As Lyra turned away, whispering in her alien tongue once more, Ethan felt the air hum softly. The sound was different now, more urgent, more desperate. He realized she was not speaking to herself. She was calling to someone, or something, that might already be on its way. The days after the confrontation were different. The silence in the apartment was no longer empty. It was filled with questions left unspoken. Ethan watched Lyra closely, not with suspicion anymore, but with a strange mix of fear and care. He had chosen to protect her, and that choice carried a weight he could feel in his chest every moment. Lyra moved with more caution now, as if his knowledge had shifted the balance between them. She avoided his eyes sometimes, as if afraid of what he might see inside her. But at night, Ethan still heard her whispers through the walls, softer now, almost like prayers. The language was alien, but the emotion in her voice was not. It was loneliness, sorrow, and something he could almost understand. One evening, the colony lights outside flickered during a power surge. The apartment fell into dim emergency light, shadows filling every corner. Ethan found Lyra standing by the window, staring at the stars beyond a colony shield. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she held a glass of water. "Do you miss your home?" Ethan asked quietly, stepping closer. She turned slowly, her glowing eyes soft but distant. "Yes," she whispered, "but my home is gone. Even if I returned, it would not be the same." Her words carried weight, like someone who had lost more than just a planet, more than just a people. Ethan wanted to comfort her, but he was clumsy with words. Instead, he sat beside her, their shoulders almost touching. For a moment, they said nothing, only shared the silence. And in that silence, a bond began to grow, fragile but real. The days that followed changed them both. Ethan started leaving the apartment door unlocked when he came home, as if silently telling her he trusted her. Lyra began cooking small meals with him, not eating much herself, but watching carefully, learning human habits. Sometimes she even laughed softly at his clumsy attempts to fix the broken heater or his complaints about dockyard wages. The sound of her laugh was light, fragile, but it warmed him more than any fire. Yet the danger never truly left. Every time the whispers returned at night, Ethan felt the air vibrate with tension. Sometimes he thought he heard static outside the window, like signals brushing against the colony's shield. The hunters she spoke of were real, and they were coming closer. He could feel it. One night, unable to hold back his curiosity, Ethan asked, "Why me? Why here? Out of all the places you could hide, why choose this apartment?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly, the silver light reflecting the dim lamp. "Because you do not ask too many questions," she said gently. "Because you live simply without drawing attention, and because," she paused, her voice softening, "I felt safe here." The last words struck him harder than any confession. Ethan swallowed, his throat dry. "Safe with me?" She nodded, her expression calm, but her eyes shining with something more. "You saw me," she whispered, "and instead of fear, you chose to protect me. Very few would do that, even among my kind." The weight of her words made his chest tighten, a strange warmth spreading through him. From that night, their bond grew stronger. Ethan found himself drawn to her presence, the way her glowing eyes softened when she smiled, the way her voice calmed the air around her. Lyra began trusting him more, leaving her holographic screens open sometimes, letting him glimpse the strange alien symbols. He could not read them, but the fact she no longer hid everything was proof of her trust. One evening, while repairing a broken water pipe, Ethan slipped and cut his hand. Blood dripped onto the floor, and before he could grab a cloth, Lyra rushed forward. She held his hand gently, her touch cool but soothing. Her eyes glowed brighter as she whispered in her alien language. To Ethan's shock, the bleeding slowed, the pain fading until only a faint scar remained. He looked at her in disbelief, but she only smiled faintly. Humans heal slowly. I only helped. The moment left Ethan shaken, not because of fear, but because of what it revealed. She was not just surviving here. She was capable of incredible things. Things that made her powerful, but also vulnerable if others discovered her. He realized then how much she trusted him, showing him abilities that could expose her to danger. As the days passed, the apartment no longer felt like two strangers sharing space. It felt like something more, fragile yet powerful, a bond born from secrets, danger, and unspoken feelings. But beneath it all, Ethan knew the truth. Trust would not stop the hunters. And when they came, he would have to choose not just to protect her, but to fight beside her. The colony was restless that night. Ethan felt it the moment he walked back from the dockyards. The air heavier, the streets too quiet. Usually the hum of engines and voices filled the corridors, but now only silence echoed. Something was wrong, and his chest tightened with unease. When he reached the apartment, Lyra was already waiting by the window. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, silver light flickering like fire beneath her skin. She turned toward him before he even spoke, her voice sharp and urgent. "They have found me." Ethan froze, his heart pounding. "Who?" "The hunters." Lyra nodded slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she pressed them against the glass. "They're close, their signals are brushing against the colony's shield. I can feel them, they will not wait long." Her calm mask was gone now, replaced by something raw, a mix of fear and determination. Ethan grabbed the old plasma tool from his work bag, the closest thing he had to a weapon. "I won't let them take you," he said, his voice shaking but firm. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes softening for just a moment. "You do not understand. Ethan, they're not like you. They are stronger, faster, built for war. Then they'll learn humans don't give up so easily." Ethan answered, gripping the tool tighter. The first explosion shook the building a moment later. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and the colony walls groaned under impact. Ethan stumbled, steadying himself against the table, while Lyra stood tall, her glow spreading across her skin. "They are here," she whispered, and then the door burst open. 3 hunters stepped inside, tall, armored, their faces hidden behind masks that shimmered with red light. Their weapons glowed faintly, energy blades sharp enough to cut steel. Ethan's breath caught, but he forced himself to step in front of Lyra, his makeshift tool raised like a shield. The hunters laughed in low, metallic voices, mocking the sight of a human standing against them. Lyra's glow flared, her body shifting, her disguise peeling back for the first time. Her skin shimmered like water, her eyes blazing with silver fire, her presence filling the room with power. The hunters stopped laughing, their weapons rising, but Ethan felt something else, a surge of energy in the air. The steam from the broken water pipes hissed and swirled around Lyra, wrapping her like armor. "Stay behind me," she commanded, her voice echoing with strength. Ethan shook his head, stepping beside her. "No, we fight together." For a heartbeat, Lyra looked at him in shock, but then her lips curved into the faintest smile. And then the fight began. The first hunter lunged forward, his blade cutting through the air. Ethan ducked, swinging his plasma tool wildly, sparks flying as it clashed against alien steel. He stumbled back, but Lyra moved like flowing water, her hands slicing through the air, waves of glowing mist slamming into the hunter and throwing him across the room. The second hunter attacked from the side, but Lyra twisted, her movements graceful and deadly, her body glowing brighter with every strike. Ethan fought clumsily, but with determination. He blocked, dodged, swung, every strike fueled by desperation. The third hunter raised his weapon high, aiming for Ethan's chest, but Lyra's hand shot out, her glow blazing as she caught the blade at her bare palm. Silver light surged through her, the weapon cracking under her grip, shattering into fragments. For the first time, Ethan saw fear in the hunter's eyes. They had underestimated her, underestimated the human standing beside her. Together, they pushed back, blow after blow, until the hunters retreated, their voices filled with static as they called for reinforcements. The walls shook again, more explosions rocking the colony. Ethan leaned against the table, his chest heaving, his arms shaking from exhaustion. You really are incredible, he whispered, staring at Lyra's glowing form. She turned to him, her expression unreadable. And you are foolish, she said softly, but brave. Her glow dimmed slowly, fading back into her human form, though her eyes still burned with silver sparks. The apartment was a wreck, steam and broken glass covering the floor, the walls scarred by weapons. Ethan looked around, his chest heavy. They'll be back, won't they? Lyra nodded, her voice low. Yes, they will not stop until I am gone, but now they know you will fight with me. She stepped closer, her hand brushing his shoulder gently, her touch warm, her eyes filled with something he could not name. Ethan felt his fear melt into determination. He had chosen to protect her, and now there was no going back. The hunters would come again, stronger, angrier, but he would stand beside her no matter what. Because Lyra was no longer just his roommate. She was his bond, his responsibility, and maybe something even more. The colony lay in uneasy silence after the attack. Emergency sirens echoed faintly in the distance. But inside the apartment, only the sound of dripping water filled the air. Ethan stood among the ruins of his home, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion, his hands still shaking from the fight. The walls were scarred, the floor burned, but he was alive, and Lyra stood beside him, her glow slowly fading. She looked at him with eyes that held both relief and sorrow. You should not have stayed, she whispered, her voice soft but heavy. Ethan wiped the sweat from his brow, his lips tightening. I told you, Lyra, I'm not letting anyone take you. Her gaze dropped, her fingers brushing the edge of the table that was half broken from the battle. They will return, she said quietly, stronger, faster, more prepared. I cannot stay here, Ethan, not without bringing destruction to everything around you. The words cut him deeply, because even though he knew they were true, he did not want to accept them. This isn't just about you anymore, he said firmly. It's about us. The words slipped out before he could stop it, but once spoken, it felt real. Lyra's eyes widened slightly, the silver glow in them flickering like a flame in the wind. Us, she repeated softly, as if the idea was both beautiful and dangerous. Ethan stepped closer, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. I chose to stand with you, Lyra. Even if it means my life, I'm not turning back now. For a long moment, silence hung heavy between them, their breaths the only sound. Finally, she whispered, You do not understand what that means. Ethan, if you stay with me, you are no longer just a human in a colony. You'll be hunted, watched, dragged into a war you never asked for. Ethan's jaw tightened, his fists clenching. Maybe I didn't ask for it, but it's here now, and I'll face it because I can't let you face it alone. Her lips trembled, a rare sign of her control slipping, her calm mask breaking. She reached out slowly, her hand resting against his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. You are not like the others, she whispered, her voice almost breaking. Most would have turned me in or run away, but you stay. Ethan covered her hand with his, pressing it firmly against his chest. Because I see you, Lyra, not just what you are, but who you are. Her silver eyes glistened, her glow faint but soft, no longer a shield but a quiet truth. For the first time, she allowed herself to look vulnerable, and it was more powerful than any display of strength. The colony lights flickered again, warning signals flashing red through the windows. Lyra stepped back, her expression torn between fear and determination. "They will not stop. Ethan, if I stay, they will destroy this place to reach me." Ethan shook his head, his voice steady. "Then we leave together." Her eyes widened, shock clear in her glowing stare. "You would abandon your life here? Your work? Your home? Everything you know?" Ethan looked around at the wreckage of the apartment, the shattered glass, the broken walls, the silence of a place no longer safe. "This isn't home anymore," he said simply. "Home is where you are." For a heartbeat, the world stood still. Lyra's lips parted, her breath trembling, her glowing eyes locked on his. She had lived her life running, hiding, never trusting, never believing anyone would stand with her. And yet here was a human, fragile by her people's standards, ready to fight the universe just to stay by her side. She closed her eyes briefly, whispering in her alien tongue, the words soft like flowing water. When she opened them again, her silver glow shone brighter, not with fear, but with resolve. "Then we go," she said, her voice strong. "Together." Ethan nodded, a quiet fire burning in his chest, stronger than any fear. The choice was made. They would leave the colony, face the hunters, and whatever war followed, side by side. Ethan knew he was stepping into a future of danger, of battles he could barely imagine. But he also knew he was not alone, and that made him stronger than he had ever been. Lyra turned to the window, the stars stretching endlessly beyond the shield. Her hand brushed his, fingers lacing with his for the first time. Ethan squeezed gently, grounding her in that moment, reminding her she was not running anymore. This time, she was walking forward with someone who refused to let go. And as the colony alarms echoed in the distance, warning of incoming ships, Ethan and Lyra stood together. Two lives bound by choice, by trust, by a bond stronger than fear. The hunters would come, the war would rise, but they would face it as one. Because sometimes the most dangerous secrets lead not to endings, but to beginnings.